Sarah shook a new, expensive bag in front of Liam, grinning from ear to ear. "Look, honey. Isn't this handbag just adorable? Will you buy this for your sweet kitty?" she asked in that same playful, slightly annoying tone he had grown so tired of. Liam stood in the middle of the boutique, staring through the glass walls into the busy corridor of the shopping mall. He was starting to feel irritated by the fact that Sarah kept calling him honey in public. And these shopping trips? Ugh, he thought, shaking his head slightly. Out of the corner of his eye, Liam noticed a middle-aged woman mopping the floors. She didn't look around, just focused on her task. Maybe she also dreamed of owning trinkets from Gucci or Dolce & Gabbana, but her salary wasn't enough to afford even a fraction of them. So, she quietly went about her business, mopping the floor. "Honey." "Hello, honey?" Sarah waved the handbag in his face, trying to catch his attention. "Are you going to buy this for your kitty or not?" Yeah, let's go to the register," Liam muttered, tearing his gaze from the cleaner and following his girlfriend to the counter. He pulled out his credit card and silently paid for the overpriced accessory. Sarah jumped with joy, adding yet another unnecessary item to her growing collection. Thank you, my dear honey," she chirped, trailing behind him, practically glowing with happiness. But Liam was already done with it all. He paid no attention to her as he walked briskly out of the boutique and headed for the exit of the mall. As they passed the cleaner, something made him stop and glance back at the woman. His eyes locked onto a necklace she was wearing, one that looked exactly like the one his daughter used to wear. The same daughter who had disappeared many years ago. No, he thought, it couldn't be. But as he looked closer, Liam felt a jolt of recognition. It was the necklace. The one his late wife had designed herself and given to their daughter, Emma, just before she passed away. Liam froze in place. He couldn't tear his eyes away from the necklace. Meanwhile, Sarah was still absorbed in her own little world, showing off her purchase as if nothing had changed. But Liam turned abruptly and started walking toward the cleaner. "Honey, where are you going?" Sarah huffed, annoyed, and puffed out her cheeks in irritation, following him. Liam approached the cleaner and, without much preamble, asked, "Where did you get that necklace?" Startled, the woman looked down at the pendant hanging from her neck, then back up at Liam. "It was a gift." "Why are you asking?" "That necklace belonged to my daughter." "Who gave it to you?" The woman's eyes widened in surprise. "Your daughter?" I didn't know. A guy gave it to me." Liam knew this necklace had no duplicates. His wife had crafted it herself, down to the last detail. "Yes, my daughter. Her name was Emma. She disappeared several years ago. Do you know where she is? Do you know what happened to her?" The cleaner shifted uneasily, avoiding eye contact. "No, I don't know." "I told you, it was a gift," she lied, glancing nervously at her mop. She quickly shoved it into the bucket and hurried off, leaving Liam standing there, feeling helpless. There was no point in chasing her, she clearly didn't know anything more. Liam's mind raced back to the last time he saw Emma. It had been years since she vanished, the only child he and his first wife had together. He remembered their final argument. He never imagined Emma would run away from home after that. The argument had started over his new wife, Sarah. Emma was adamantly opposed to another woman living in their home. To her, no one could replace her mother, not even after she had passed away. Life had never been the same since Liam's wife died. He had been completely lost after her death, unable to cope with the grief. Looking back, he knew something had been wrong for a long time. His wife, Maria, had seemed to wither away before his eyes, but she always reassured him that everything was fine, that she would recover soon, and life would return to normal. However, it didn't. Her condition worsened by the day. "Have you seen a doctor?" Liam had asked her countless times. "Yes, I'm going, and the doctor says I'll be fine soon." It's just a cold, Liam. Don't worry, Maria would reply, wiping away the tears she thought he didn't see. But Liam did worry. He had a growing sense of dread. Something was wrong. One night, Maria woke him up in pain, gasping for air. Liam, bring me the pills, please. They're on the fridge in the kitchen, she had pleaded weakly. He rushed downstairs, but when he found the bottle, his heart dropped. It wasn't just painkillers, it was a powerful drug, the same one his father had taken when he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Maria, what is this? What's going on? Liam demanded, his voice shaking. It's just something to help with the pain, Liam, she said, trying to remain calm. But I know what this is, Liam insisted, his voice rising. This is the same medication my father took before he died. What's wrong with you? Why didn't you tell me? Maria simply swallowed the pill and lay back down, too weak to explain further. The next day, Liam couldn't take it anymore. He went to the doctor with her, and the truth was a devastating blow. Maria was gravely ill, terminally so. There was nothing more that could be done. The news shattered Liam's world. He felt helpless and angry that he hadn't seen it sooner, that Maria hadn't confided in him about how serious her condition was. He pleaded with the doctor, "Isn't there anything we can do? There has to be some treatment, some chance." The doctor shook his head. "I'm sorry, Mr. Carter. By the time we caught this, it was already too late. Had we known earlier, maybe we could have tried some experimental treatments. But now, all we can do is keep her comfortable. The pain management you've been giving her is the best we can offer at this stage." Liam couldn't accept it. "How can you just give up? She's my wife, the mother of my child. There has to be something, some doctor, some clinic, somewhere in the world." The doctor tried to calm him down. "I understand how difficult this is, Mr. Carter, but I've consulted with my colleagues across the country, and none of them would take on this case. However, I've read about a few clinics abroad, in Israel, in Germany, where they've had some success with cases like this. It's rare, but if you have the means, you could reach out to them. Just know, the statistics are grim. Most patients in this condition don't survive the surgery." That was all Liam needed to hear. He didn't care about the odds, he'd do whatever it took to save Maria. He found doctors overseas, made arrangements for an operation, and booked their flights. But it was all too late. Maria passed away before they could even board the plane. In the days following her death, Liam's life lost all meaning. His work, his ambitions, even his relationship with his daughter Emma, everything seemed dull and pointless. For a time, he could barely face his own child. Seeing her reminded him too much of Maria, and the crushing guilt of not being able to save his wife weighed heavily on him. Emma, only 10 years old at the time, was his sole reason to keep going. She had been close to her mother and took Maria's death just as hard as Liam, though she tried to hide her pain. While Liam struggled with his grief by withdrawing from the world, Emma was left to process her loss alone. She tried her best to be strong, to carry on with school and life, but at night, when she was alone, the tears would come. She missed her mother more than anything and felt as though her world had been split in two, before her mother's death and after. Though they lived in the same house, Liam and Emma existed in two separate worlds. He tried to be there for her, but his own grief consumed him. Still, he never forgot Maria. He kept her memory alive in the house, refusing to change anything, and Emma did the same. The house remained just as Maria had left it, her photographs, her favorite knickknacks, even her scent lingering in the air. As Emma grew older, she coped with the loss in her own way. She often talked to her mother's picture when no one was around, asking it for advice on things she didn't feel comfortable asking her father. Life went on, but for Emma, it was never quite the same. 5 years passed, and while Liam eventually began to move on from his grief, Emma never did. She kept her emotions locked away, never wanting to burden her father with her sadness. On the outside, she was just like any other teenager, laughing with friends during the day, going to school, and living a seemingly normal life. But at night, the weight of her mother's absence crushed her. For Liam, time did what it often does, it dulled the pain. He threw himself into his work, opening new auto repair shops across the city. It was a business Maria had helped him start. She had been the one to suggest he pursue his passion for cars and build a business from it. She had believed in him, helping him draft business plans and supporting him through the hard times. Thanks to her encouragement, Liam had opened his first garage, and it quickly became successful. But when Maria fell ill, everything began to unravel. He sold one of his garages to cover her medical expenses, and he would have sold everything if it meant saving her. But it wasn't enough. Maria was gone, and Liam was left to rebuild his life, not just for himself, but for Emma. Slowly, he did recover. His business picked up again, and his friends encouraged him to get out, to meet people. And eventually, that's how he met Sarah. Sarah was young, vibrant, and beautiful. She brought a spark of life back into Liam that he hadn't felt in years. Their connection was immediate, and before long, they were inseparable. Sarah's energy and charm were exactly what Liam thought he needed at the time. She gave him a reason to smile again. They had been together for about 2 months when Liam decided to introduce her to Emma. He believed Emma would love Sarah as much as he did. But the reality was far from what he had hoped. "Emma, I've got a surprise for you," he said, excited to share his news with his daughter over the phone. "Really?" Emma responded, her curiosity piqued. "What is it, Dad?" "You'll see tonight. Just cancel your plans and be home, okay?" "Okay, Dad." Emma agreed, though her mind was racing with possibilities. She couldn't concentrate on her schoolwork for the rest of the day, wondering what this surprise could be. That evening, Emma sat in the living room, nervously glancing at the clock every few minutes. Her father had promised her something special, and she was eager to find out what it was. Finally, she heard the sound of keys turning in the front door. Emma stood up quickly, expecting to see her father walk in alone. But instead, a young, beautiful woman stepped through the door, followed by Liam, his arms full of shopping bags. "Emma, this is Sarah," Liam said with a broad smile. "Sarah, this is my daughter, Emma." "Hello, Emma." Sarah greeted her warmly, flashing a bright, model-like smile. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Your father has told me so much about you." Emma's face fell. She had expected a new gift, maybe a special outing, not this. A surge of emotion welled up inside her, anger, confusion, hurt. She couldn't believe her father's surprise was introducing her to a stranger, someone who had no place in their lives. Someone who, in Emma's eyes, could never take her mother's place. "Hi," Emma muttered, her voice flat and unwelcoming. "Come on, Emma, help me with these bags," Liam said cheerfully, trying to break the awkward silence. Reluctantly, Emma followed her father into the kitchen, her mind racing. "Who is she, Dad? Why is she here?" she asked in a quiet, tense voice. "Emma, I wanted to introduce you to Sarah because, well, she's going to be a part of our lives. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and we've decided to get married." Emma felt like the ground had dropped from beneath her feet. "Married?" she asked, her voice rising in disbelief. "Dad, what about Mom? Have you already forgotten her? How can you do this?" "Emma, it's not like that," Liam said, trying to stay calm. "I loved your mother more than anything, but she's gone. I have to move on with my life, and so do you. Sarah has made me happy again, and I want you to be happy for us." "Happy for you?" Emma's voice cracked. "You're bringing a stranger into our home, where everything is still Mom's. I don't want a new stepmom. I don't even know her, and now you're telling me she's moving in with us? This is too fast, Dad. It hasn't even been that long." Liam sighed, his heart heavy. He hadn't expected this reaction from Emma, though in hindsight, he should have. Emma, I'm not asking you to forget your mother. I want you to give Sarah a chance. I think you'll like her if you get to know her. No, I won't, Emma said firmly. I don't need to get to know her. I don't want her here. With that, she turned and ran up the stairs, slamming the door to her room behind her. Liam stood in the kitchen, feeling torn between his love for his daughter and his desire to move on with his life. Sarah walked in, her face filled with concern. She just needs some time, Sarah said softly, touching Liam's arm. This is a lot for her to take in. I know, Liam replied, his voice strained. I just didn't think it would hurt her this much. That night, Emma cried herself to sleep. She felt betrayed by her father, as though he had chosen Sarah over the memory of her mother. She didn't want to live in a house where a stranger was going to take her mother's place. The next morning, before Liam even had a chance to talk to her, Emma was gone. Her room was empty, save for a few essentials. Some of her clothes were missing, and so was her backpack. In a panic, Liam called her friends, but no one knew where she had gone. His heart sank as he realized his daughter had run away. Liam and Sarah went straight to the police, filing a missing person report. She's probably just cooling off, the officer told them dismissively. Kids run away all the time. They usually come back after a day or two. But Liam couldn't rest. He had lost too much already to just sit and wait. He spent the next few days searching the streets, asking anyone and everyone if they had seen a girl matching Emma's description. Weeks turned into months, and still, no sign of her. He kept her room exactly as she had left it, hoping every day that she would walk through the front door. Emma, meanwhile, had no intention of returning. She stayed with a group of friends for the first few nights, but knew her father would start looking for her there. So she wandered the city, staying in shelters when she could, avoiding places where she might be recognized. One night, she found herself sitting on a park bench, exhausted and unsure of where to go next. A group of young people, laughing and carefree, sat down on the bench next to her. They were strangers, but Emma felt drawn to their energy, their sense of freedom. Hey, you all right? One of the girls asked, noticing Emma's worn-out appearance. You look like you've had a rough day. I'm fine, Emma lied, wiping away a tear. My name's Lucy. What's yours? Emma. Nice to meet you, Emma. What's going on? You seem like you could use a friend. Emma hesitated, then the words spilled out before she could stop them. I left home. I couldn't stay there anymore. My dad, he's getting married, and I can't stand it. Lucy listened quietly, nodding as Emma explained her situation. You know what? Why don't you come stay with me for a bit? I've got a room in the student dorms not far from here. It's nothing fancy, but you can crash with me until you figure things out. Emma looked at her, grateful and unsure at the same time. You don't even know me. That's okay, Lucy said with a smile. Sometimes, strangers make the best friends. And so, Emma moved in with Lucy, determined to build a new life for herself away from her father. Over time, the two girls became close, with Lucy helping Emma to change her appearance, cutting her long hair into a short bob and dyeing it black. They even bought colored contact lenses, so Emma's blue eyes were now a deep brown. With her new look, no one would recognize her. Liam's search for Emma continued, though with little success. One day, while shopping at the local mall, he spotted a girl working at the children's play area. For a brief moment, he thought he recognized her, the shape of her face, the way she moved, but as he got closer, he realized she had dark hair and brown eyes, nothing like his daughter. He sighed, frustrated and heartbroken, and walked away. Little did he know, it was Emma. Her disguise had worked. She continued living under the radar, working odd jobs and doing everything she could to stay hidden. But even though she had run away, a part of her missed her father terribly. She wondered if he had given up looking for her, if he had settled into his new life with Sarah. But she couldn't bring herself to go back, not yet. Years passed, and Liam eventually did find happiness again, though his heart always ached for the daughter he had lost. Then, one day, their paths crossed again in the most unexpected of ways. One afternoon, several years after Emma had run away, Liam found himself once again in the same shopping mall where he had thought he'd seen his daughter. He had grown used to the ache of missing her, though the pain never fully went away. He had divorced Sarah after realizing their relationship wasn't what he truly needed. His heart and mind were always elsewhere, thinking about Emma, wondering if she was safe and happy, and where she might be. As he walked past the same children's play area, now just a place he passed by occasionally without much thought, something caught his eye. It was the way a young woman, who was helping a child tie their shoe, moved, a familiar gesture, a tilt of the head, something only a father would recognize. Liam froze in place, his heart racing. Could it be? The woman had short black hair and brown eyes, nothing like the daughter he had lost so long ago. But as she stood up and turned, her eyes met his. For a split second, the world seemed to stop, and in that moment, he knew. Emma? The woman's face turned pale. She looked at him, speechless, as if time had suddenly rewound and brought her back to a place she had tried so hard to forget. There was no doubt now, it was her. Despite the years and the changes, Liam would have known his daughter anywhere. Emma took a step back, her mind racing. She hadn't expected to see her father again, least of all here, in the middle of the life she had built for herself. Emma, it's me. Dad, Liam said, his voice shaky, tears welling up in his eyes. He didn't know whether to move toward her or stay frozen in place, afraid that any wrong move might scare her away. Dad. Emma whispered, her throat tight with emotion. She had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her head, but now that it was happening, she didn't know what to do or say. For what felt like forever, they stood there, staring at each other. Emma wanted to run, to hide like she had so many times before. But seeing her father's tear-filled eyes, the way his face had aged since she had last seen him, something inside her softened. She took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside her. Dad, I'm sorry, she finally said, her voice cracking. I didn't want to leave, but I didn't know how to stay. Liam shook his head, walking slowly toward her, as if afraid she might disappear if he moved too quickly. You don't have to be sorry, Emma. I should have listened to you back then. I should have been more understanding. I've spent every day regretting the way things went, wishing I could take it all back. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks as she listened to him. She hadn't realized how much she had missed her father, how much she had longed for this moment, even though she had tried to convince herself otherwise for years. I missed you, Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. I missed you too, Liam replied, his own tears now falling freely. Every day. In that moment, the years of pain, anger, and misunderstanding seemed to melt away as father and daughter embraced. They held onto each other tightly, as though afraid that if they let go, they would lose each other again. After a long while, they finally pulled apart, though neither wanted to let go completely. I don't even know where to begin, Liam said with a soft laugh, wiping his tears away. There's so much we need to catch up on. I know, Emma replied, smiling through her tears. I have so much to tell you. They sat down on a nearby bench, and for the first time in years, they really talked. Emma told him about everything that had happened since she had run away, how she had met Lucy, how she had changed her appearance, how she had built a new life for herself, and how much she had missed him every day. Liam listened intently, never once interrupting, just grateful to finally have his daughter back. He shared his own story, how his marriage to Sarah had fallen apart, how he had never stopped looking for her, and how he had always hoped that one day, they would find each other again. By the time they finished talking, the sun had begun to set, casting a warm, golden light through the windows of the mall. It felt symbolic, as if a new chapter of their lives was beginning, one filled with hope and healing. I don't want to lose you again, Liam said softly, taking Emma's hand. You won't, Emma replied, squeezing his hand in return. I'm not going anywhere this time. They stood up, and Liam asked, Would you like to come home? Or wherever you're staying. I'd just love to spend more time with you, get to know the person you've become. Emma smiled, a tear still glistening in her eye. I'd love that, Dad. And with that, they walked out of the mall together, side by side, ready to rebuild the bond that had been lost for so long. As Liam and Emma walked out of the mall, there was a quiet comfort in the air between them. It felt like the beginning of something new, something they had both longed for, even though neither had been certain it would ever happen. The sun was setting, and the world around them seemed to slow, allowing them this moment of reunion without any distractions. They decided to head to a small cafe nearby. It was a cozy place, tucked away on a quiet street, the kind of spot where they could sit for hours without being disturbed. The soft hum of conversation and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air as they sat down at a corner table. So, Liam began, a gentle smile on his face. How have you been, really? I know you've told me a bit, but I want to know everything, what you've been doing, how you've been feeling. Emma stirred the tea in front of her, looking thoughtful. It's been hard, she admitted, not sugarcoating her experience. At first, I was angry. Angry at you, angry at everything that happened. But over time, I realized that running away didn't solve anything. It just made me feel more alone. Lucy was a huge help though. She kept me grounded, gave me a place to stay when I needed it. Liam nodded, his heart heavy with guilt but also with gratitude for the friend who had helped his daughter. I'm glad you had someone to turn to. Emma gave a small smile. She's like family to me now. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done without her. But even with her support, I always felt like something was missing. I missed you, Dad. I missed the way things used to be, even if they were difficult after Mom passed away. Liam's face softened at the mention of Emma's mother. I know I wasn't perfect, Emma. After your mom died, I didn't know how to handle things. I tried to keep everything together, but I failed in so many ways. And then Sarah, well, I thought moving on was what I needed, but it only made things worse between us. Emma nodded, her eyes meeting his. I get it now. I didn't at the time, but I do now. You were grieving, and so was I. We just didn't know how to grieve together. They both sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the past settling between them, but not in a way that hurt. It was more like a shared understanding now, a mutual recognition of everything that had been lost and everything that could still be salvaged. I don't blame you anymore, Dad, Emma said softly. I think I was just scared that you were replacing Mom, and I didn't want to lose you too. Liam reached across the table and gently took her hand. You never lost me, Emma. Even when you left, you never lost me. I thought about you every single day, and I never stopped hoping that we'd find our way back to each other. Emma squeezed his hand, feeling the sincerity in his words. Well, here we are, she said with a small smile. We've got a second chance now. And I don't intend to waste it, Liam replied. They spent the next hour talking about everything that had happened in their lives over the past few years. Emma shared more about her time working at the mall, how she had slowly built a new life for herself, and how she had struggled to move past the pain of her mother's death. Liam told her about how he had kept searching for her, how his marriage with Sarah had unraveled, and how he had finally realized that what he truly needed was to reconnect with his daughter. As they finished their drinks, Liam looked at Emma and asked, What do you want to do next? I mean, do you want to take things slow, or do you think you might want to come home? I know it's a lot to think about. Emma hesitated for a moment, then smiled. I think I'd like to come home, Dad. But I'd still like to keep my independence, too. Maybe we can find a balance, something that works for both of us. Liam's face lit up. I'd love that. Whatever you need, we'll figure it out together. They left the cafe, walking side by side into the cool evening air. The weight of the past was still there, but it no longer felt heavy. Instead, it felt like something they had both learned from, something that had brought them to this moment of reconciliation. As they walked down the quiet street, Liam turned to Emma. "You know, your mom would be so proud of you. You've grown into an incredible young woman, and I'm so lucky to be your dad." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Thanks, Dad. That means a lot." And with that, they continued walking, side by side, ready to face whatever the future held for them, together. They continued to walk in comfortable silence, their steps in sync as they wandered through the now dimly lit streets. The warm glow of streetlights created a peaceful ambience, and the quiet buzz of the city around them felt distant, almost like they were in their own world. Both Liam and Emma were soaking in the newfound peace between them, grateful for the moment and hopeful for the future. After some time, they reached the car, and Liam opened the door for Emma before getting in himself. As they drove home, the conversation between them flowed naturally, touching on lighter topics. Emma shared funny stories from her time at the mall, and Liam reminisced about the times when she was younger, before everything became so complicated. For the first time in a long while, it felt like the weight of their shared history was lifting, making way for something new. When they pulled up to Liam's house, Emma hesitated for a moment, taking in the sight of the familiar place. It was the home she had grown up in, but it now felt like something different. The changes she had feared weren't as overwhelming as she had imagined. The house had been well kept, but nothing major had changed in the decor, just small things here and there that reflected Liam's life after she left. "Want to come inside for a bit?" Liam asked, noticing her pause. Emma nodded, and together they walked up the front steps. As Liam unlocked the door, Emma felt a mix of emotions, nostalgia, anxiety, and relief. Stepping inside, she was greeted by the familiar scent of home, a combination of the wood floors and the faint trace of her father's cologne. "It's strange, isn't it?" Liam said, watching her as she took in the surroundings. "So much time has passed, but it feels like just yesterday you were here." Emma smiled, walking through the living room. She touched the back of the old couch, the same one they'd sat on so many times as a family. The memories came rushing back, but this time, they didn't hurt as much. "It's nice to be back," she admitted softly. "I didn't think I'd ever say that, but it is." Liam gave her a warm smile, relieved that she was starting to feel comfortable again. "I'm glad. Take your time, though. I don't want to rush anything. You're always welcome here, no matter what." Emma wandered over to a small photo frame on the mantel. It was a picture of her mother, smiling warmly. She picked it up, her fingers tracing the edge of the frame. "I think she'd be happy too," Emma whispered. Liam nodded, his voice gentle. "I think so too." They spent a few more minutes talking in the living room, catching up on the little things they hadn't yet covered. Liam offered Emma some tea, and they sat in the kitchen, sipping their drinks as they continued to talk late into the night. There was a quiet ease between them now, a sense that they had turned a corner in their relationship. Eventually, the exhaustion from the long day began to catch up with Emma. Liam noticed her stifling a yawn and smiled. "You should get some rest. You've had a long day." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of tiredness settle in. "Yeah, I think I'll stay in the guest room tonight, if that's okay." "Of course," Liam said quickly. "I'll get it ready for you." He showed her to the guest room, where Emma settled in, grateful for the warmth and comfort of the familiar space. As she lay down, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. It was strange, but also comforting, like something had finally clicked into place. The next morning, the sun streamed through the curtains, and Emma woke to the smell of breakfast cooking downstairs. She smiled to herself, getting up and making her way to the kitchen, where Liam was already up, flipping pancakes. "Morning, sleepyhead," he greeted her with a grin. "Morning," Emma replied, feeling lighter than she had in years. They shared breakfast together, laughing and chatting like they used to before everything became complicated. It felt good, like they were finding their rhythm again. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam worked on rebuilding their relationship, slowly and steadily. Emma didn't move back in permanently, but she visited often. They had dinner together a couple of times a week, and she helped Liam with things around the house. Little by little, they fell into a new kind of normal, one that allowed them to hold on to the past while moving forward. As the days passed, Emma began to see the future more clearly. She felt ready to embrace it, knowing that no matter what, her father would be there for her. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, watching the sunset, Liam turned to Emma and said, "I'm proud of you, you know that? You've grown into an amazing woman, and I'm lucky to be your dad." Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her. "Thanks, Dad. I'm lucky to have you too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching as the sky changed colors, content in the knowledge that they had found their way back to each other. Thank you for listening to the story to the end. Write your thoughts about it in the comments. Subscribe to the channel, tell me, and share this video with your friends and loved ones. This motivates us to continue working on new stories every day. Do not miss the next amazing story that is about to appear on your screen. We are very grateful to you for being with us. In the description under this video, you can open the catalog of all the stories. See you there.